Iyanu is a brand new Cartoon Network show that delivers a lot of what animation fans have been begging for years now. Iyanu is about the chosen one named Iyanu who has to master her divine powers in order to restore peace to the Yoruba land of Africa. It's an action-adventure series in the same vein as Avatar, but to me it almost captures more so what Avatar was going after with more authenticity. Avatar was its own epic adventure series about a diverse cast of characters traveling across a fantasy world to save its people, and a large part of its appeal was looking kind of like anime, but not exactly being anime. American anime, as they can sometimes be called, gets a lot of criticism, but some would say Avatar is really just a serious style with a bit of Asian influence. The show wasn't meant to feel like an anime per se, but it was meant to feel foreign, like something imported from the East instead of just a cartoon made to look like a dub of an anime. Iyanu is the type of show I'm sure others would call American anime, or rather in this case African anime, but it doesn't exactly try to copy anime either. It maintains a serious art style that we often associate with anime today, but that wasn't something unheard of outside of Japan with more serious animation even here in the West. Iyanu was created by Roy Okupe, sorry if I mispronounced that, who was raised in Nigeria. He began writing the story of Iyanu as a comic back in 2021 to share a fantasy experience of his culture and its history, much like other cultures do around the world. This direct Nigerian influence carries over into the show, where even the English voice cast uses Nigerian actors and actresses. And you can hear the real excitement of the characters when they get to have favorite dishes like pounded yam with goat meat. I eat yams with chicken multiple times a week, so seeing this moment made me want this meal so bad, and it really reminded me of being younger and learning about different foods from anime that look delicious. It taps into the desire to just experience something different, something foreign, living not in a different world that simulates our own, but a different culture. And with an all-American production team, you would lose the authenticity of moments like this in the TV show. And in Iyanu, every single one of these moments lands in a charming way, at least in the 3 episodes we get so far that you can watch over on HBO Max. The show opened with Iyanu being raised in the forest by a woman named Ilori, who is the last priestess of a group known as the Ogoni. This is the only place Ilori says is safe for Iyanu, as the forest is in a special place outside of the walls of the main city, while still being protected by one last outer wall. These walls were put up 500 years ago to protect the last of humanity from animals on the outside that had become corrupted by dark divine entities known as Fallen Ones. You might think of it as similar to Attack on Titan, but instead of cannibalistic giants on the outside, it's just animals under an evil influence. Iyanu herself is considered dangerous by the people of Ilu, which is the inner city, and when she tries to sneak in to see other children her age, they all mock her. Everything changes for Iyanu when the king of Ilu dies and the combating powers within Ilu begin to turn their attention towards the last of the Ogoni, as well as the strange child Iyanu that she's been raising in the woods. Because of this, Ilori has to fight the warriors who have finally hunted her down so that Iyanu can escape the outer wall and go on a quest to learn about her origins. Up to this point, she'd been told by Ilori that she was just found in the woods, but as Iyanu explores her powers, she begins to realize that she is a fabled figure known as the Chosen One. In the 3rd episode, Iyanu ends up learning about the 3 powers that she has as the Chosen One. These are power over the unnatural, the natural, and the supernatural. Here, the unnatural simply means the inanimate, and when she allows herself to become one with the universe around her, Iyanu is able to control the chaos that exists within everything. The power over the natural here means the power over nature. And again, when experiencing this sort of oneness with everything, Iyanu is able to influence plant life and even make plants grow at rapid rates. Finally, the power of the supernatural is explained as Iyanu having the ability to cleanse the corrupted, removing what makes the animals try to hurt them and even seemingly turning them into allies. But with Iyanu being such a young age, Ilori is going to need some training, and thankfully she's going to get some help from her 2 friends. At the beginning of the show, Iyanu doesn't have anyone but Ilori, who's essentially a mother to her, and her conflict really begins when she tries to go into the city because she wants to hang out with other kids. Finally, she ends up getting that with 2 very different types of friends, one from the inner city, and one who has actually been existing on the outside of the walls with other groups that had been exiled in the past. The city boy, Toye, technically isn't on a journey with her yet, and instead is part of a team actually hunting her down, similar to how we might think of Zuko in the Avatar before joining his team in Season 3. But from what seems to be posted about the comics online, it seems like he's a normal part of Iyanu's team as she travels across the land. And we already see see him in the show questioning the orders of his father as well as the people giving his father orders. It's a pretty interesting show, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it develops week to week as we get new episodes. I think the writing of the show hits a very unique blend, as it's a Cartoon Network show which tends to be more child-friendly than a Netflix show might be, even with the same basic age rating. But the way Iyanu stays safe for kids while also being mature with its story manages to strike a balance that feels kind of nostalgic for some reason. Tonally, it feels like something more serious from the 90s. It uses humor where appropriate, but it never overdoes it. It's the simplicity of the jokes that makes them land without having to have exaggerated faces or sound effects telling you that you're supposed to laugh. Yet when it comes to imparting its more serious themes, it does so in a way that is still obviously from this era, by which I mean it's clear without being cringe. The best example of this is from episode 1 when Iyanu and Alori are training with a sparring session, and Iyanu just gives up after she can't land a real hit on Alori. It's here that Alori explains to Iyanu that the goal wasn't to win in a battle, but to let Iyanu exhaust herself while using entirely defensive moves. Here she explains that your opponent is not always your enemy, and your enemy is not always your opponent, and having ways to defeat them instead of just violence can be key to victory. It's a common theme in action shows aimed at kids to try and limit violence by focusing on the idea of peace, particularly that no one should be killed, not even genocidal villains, especially by the main character. Here, Alori doesn't dismiss the possibility of violence being necessary, but she says to leave it as a last resort. And if there's another way to subdue your opponent, such as letting them exhaust themselves, then that is the path that you should take. This sets up the entire show, which is about Iyanu getting to the point of using her powers to cure the corrupted animals as a whole, turning these vicious animals into allies. It's a story about a land filled with conflict, but with the idea that this chosen one can perhaps heal it instead of fight it, bringing people together instead of causing any particular side to have some sort of victory. The show is rooted in the ideas of African mythology without jumping into any particular mythic figure or story. In this world, the early Africans existed in an age of wonder for 1,000 years, where the divine gods helped humans to flourish with technology and magic. This fell apart during the Great War with the Fallen Ones, where they unleash a curse that turns all of the animals into wild beasts that attack people, leading the humans to build a walled city to protect them. The Divine Ones, however, left a prophecy of a chosen one who would one day come and remove the curse, setting humans free to live around the land again. Episode 2 expands on those ideas when Iyanu meets her first friend who teaches her about the conspiracies surrounding the Age of Wonders. It's not just that this age ended in war, but that since then the history has been hidden and wiped away, and removing the Ogoni who hold the tradition of this was part of the problem. Through Ogoni priestesses like Alori, the people could understand their ancient technology again, but instead they choose to fight amongst themselves. All of this hints at our chosen one, not just eventually uncorrupting the animals, but perhaps uncorrupting the fallen ones themselves. This wouldn't be by the same magic she uses on the animals, but rather that's just a symbol for the work she could potentially do, uniting the fighting factions of gods, who had conflict among each other just as the humans do in the show today. The fact that this is on Cartoon Network instead of streaming is amazing, and I hope it means more shows like it will come out in the future. Growing up, Cartoon Network felt like the place where the interesting things in animation happened, where different types of animation were explored. But what do you guys think? I know a lot of people probably are going to sleep on the show because it didn't end up on Netflix or something first, but with it releasing on Max, I'm hoping a lot more people find it and we get more and more seasons of it, and perhaps more shows like it. Let me know your thoughts on the show in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys next time.
Well, 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 if it isn't my arch rival, Racer Rabbit. Shady the Bat, you're here for the magic crystal as well?
Careful, Racer! He almost beat you last time.
I guess we'll have no choice but to battle till the very end, our hands all over each other. No homo. There is no homo that I fear. Well then, may the best homo win!
Wait, what did you say?